But I want to start out with this question. Is the Republican Party actually working all across the country to intentionally raise a whole brand new generation of basically racist right-wing crackpots? I mean, just imagine if hardcore crazies like Marjorie Taylor Greene ran most of the school boards across the country. Just think about that for a moment, you know. It's like, this is actually the Republican Party's current plan, and they're gaining some real traction with this. They have been looking for a bigoted wedge issue for 2021. I mean, they have been searching for a wedge issue for 2021. For a while they thought, and you know, we talked about this on this program a few weeks ago when they were rolling these things out. For a while, number one, they were like, oh, well, you know, actually, let me back up a little bit. The problem they're having is that Joe Biden is a white guy. He's about as white guy as you can get, right? And he's spent his career being a white guy, and he's never really been, you know, a social justice warrior or any of that stuff. I mean, he's been reasonable and good on, you know, on civil rights and things, but you know, they're having a hard time getting their base freaked out about a white guy in the White House. So, I mean, you know, it's not like he's Obama, right? So first, they tried rolling out this, and we saw all this. You know, if you didn't catch right-wing media, all you had to do was catch Jen Psaki's, discussions in the daily White House briefings, where she would call on the right-wing reporters, and they would come out and say, well, you know, here's what we think. And one of the questions was, is this the third term of the Obama administration? Because actually Kamala Harris is running things. Now, what's the association between Kamala Harris and Barack Obama? You know, they didn't work together. Well, I suppose arguably they served together in the, actually, I don't even think they served together in the Senate. Kamala Harris wasn't in the Senate by the time Obama left the Senate. So, like, what's the association? Whoa, they're both black people. Oh, that's it. So, and they tried this. Kamala Harris is really, you know, pulling the strings thing. That didn't work. The third term of the Obama administration didn't work. They rolled all these things out on Fox News and right-wing hate radio, and, you know, it's all over the dial, but it just didn't crank up the base. I mean, you know, it cranked up a few, but nowhere near enough to win an election with. So then they tried, you know, the whole. It must be Susan Rice, another black woman who Biden just put in his administration. Must be Susan Rice who's really running things. That didn't fly either. I think, frankly, most of their followers don't even know who Susan Rice is. But what's really, I mean, they've tried these things, and now what they've found, the one thing that they can do that actually gets white voters in the suburbs to show up at events and yell and scream and make noise and get it in the newspaper and all this kind of stuff, is school board meetings and schools in general, public schools, where there is the possibility that we will be discussing race, that there will be a discussion of the history of race in the United States, the Holocaust committed by white people in this country against Native Americans, the largest genocide in the history of the world, and against people who had been brought here against their will from Africa and then enslaved for several hundred years on this continent by white people. And, you know, any discussion about that, total freak out. Just a total freak out. I mean, you know, this goes back to 1954 in Brown v. Board. And you know, it really started, this whole thing about not teaching civics in schools, this really started with Bill Bennett. And Bill Bennett is the guy, Sean, if you can play the 360, Bill Bennett is the guy who famously said that he was, this is the guy Ronald Reagan put in charge of our education department. He was Secretary of Education, and he gutted civics education. Why? Well, this may be a clue if it works. It's not working. Oh,
but I do know that it's true that if you wanted to reduce crime, you could, if that were your sole purpose, you could abort every black baby in this country and your crime rate would go down.
That was Bill Bennett, Reagan's Secretary of Education, right? Honest to God. And it's so nice being back in the studio where I can play these clips. So now we have this relatively uncontroversial piece of legislation. Tom Cole, the Republican from Oklahoma, and John Cornyn, the Republican from Texas, Republican senators, they signed on to this piece of legislation to appropriate $1 billion, right? Chump change, $1 billion to give to schools around the country to help teach civics. And oh my God, you'd think that a nuclear bomb was about to go off. You'd think that a whole brand new variety of terrorists were about to be unleashed. And in school boards all across the country, people are freaking out. What? You're going to undo what Bill Bennett did back during, when he was Reagan's Secretary of Education? We can't have that. I mean, this is their new thing. Michelle Goldberg pointed out in the New York Times, this was a couple days ago, that in one particular town where this Republican suburbs, where they were going to start teaching just history, right? Just black history. She said that election drew 3 times the ordinary number of voters, with right-wing white people, in my phrase, opposed to the so-called cultural competence plan, quote, dominated winning 2 school board seats, 2 city council seats, and the mayor's office. Hang on.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Won those positions by 40 points each. The Republicans showed up for the school board.